Broadcasting live from the Capitol OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America. Again, we're starting a little early because I was solo on handicapper support, so we ended that a little early, and we're starting a little early just so I can do some news and notes. And then we'll put on our Michael Stidham interview. We'll take a break and come back and put that on after 10 o'clock. So if folks do tune in the usual time, they'll be able to catch that. But I wanted to give a few news and notes as well. Also do want to remind you again that Fan Appreciation Day at the Sportsman's Bowl today, Sportsman's Bowl, easy bet. Fan Appreciation Day, and those are always fun. You have some food and get vouchers and PPs and a contest. You can swing by there this afternoon. Fan Appreciation Day, Sportsman's Bowl, easy bet down in Schenectady. All right, do want to remind you also $108,000 pick six carryover at Aqueduct today, double carryover. So if you're a pick six player, jump in. But I have the recap page in front of me here. Now, the pick five paid out. The pick six, there was no horse alive yesterday, so it was a guaranteed carryover going into the finale. But the reason for that and the pick five paying is there was a $104 winner in the eighth yesterday, Lady Milagro, and I said earlier, I said Apprentice Luis Rivera. That was his first stakes victory. That's a nice way to do it, $104 runner for Carlos Martin. And Carlos said, gave him a great ride. He'd been working him in the morning, so we took a shot with the Apprentice. And the horse went out and set solid fractions and came home 107.55. It was legit, $104 and change. But that was the eighth race. The pick five started in the fifth and was reasonable otherwise, $10, $4, $12, $6. But what made for the carryover in the pick six, that sequence started one race earlier than the pick five with a $67 winner. MB's money for Wayne Potts and Lane Luzzy, $67 to kick off the sequence. So the pick six had the $67 and the $100 winner. So we had the carryover. Pick five with the $100 winner in there, 50-cent payout, $14,000. The $1 payout on 5 of 6 in the pick six was over $2,300. But again, you have a nice carryover today down there. Also did want to note, coming up yesterday, it was opening day at Fairgrounds. We're going to talk a little bit with Michael Stidham about training and racing down there. But don't forget, one of my favorite tracks, and it's been too long since I've been. I got to get down there at some point. Tampa Bay Downs opens up on Wednesday, so keep that in mind. They'll have an additional $5.5 million in overnight purse money that was allocated by the state of Florida. And there was an article in the Racing Forum talking about some new faces coming down there on the training side. One of those, Jamie Ness, who has been in the past a leading trainer down there, but hasn't in recent seasons necessarily been at Tampa. He's at Parks and Laurel in the winter. This year he's going to have a string over at Oaklawn as well, but he said he'd have a string at Tampa. My man Mike Deeney down there at Tampa, obviously in the wintertime. Gerald Bennett, perennially very good. But again, with the extra purse money, should be a fun meet down there with some of the familiar faces and maybe some new faces as well on both the trainer and the jockey side. Again, opening day is Wednesday. I'm reading from the article here. After the opening day card and the Thanksgiving holiday, Tampa Bay Downs will race a Wednesday through Friday and Saturday. They will race a Wednesday, Friday, Saturday schedule. They'll add Sundays to the mix on December 24th. So you can keep that in mind. Tampa Bay opening up next Wednesday. And this was kind of interesting news. Sounds like he's going to be based down there. Jockey Fernando O'Hara, who we remember, kind of bursting on the scene and making a lot of noise and was doing a lot of good work when Kieran was training, Kieran McLaughlin, including on Invasor. But he's been riding in Dubai for the last several years. However, now going to be represented by the go-getter jockey agent, Jose Santos Jr. And I wonder if he didn't plant the seed in his ear and said, come on over, I'll rep you. But he's Jose Santos Jr. representing Fernando Jara. He's going to come back and ride here in the United States. And again, the DRF article says primarily at Tampa, but he may have, some mounts at Gulfstream or ship around as a lot of the jocks do in the wintertime. But again, he's been over in Dubai. He's 36 years old now, and he kind of made his name on the scene as a teenager when he was doing okay. Again, on Invasor, won the Dubai World Cup. And so it's going to be interesting to see what he does coming back here now. Fernando Jara back in the United States starting. And today he's got a scheduled mount at Gulfstream today in race 8. So you can look for him there. And then again, throughout the winter, Gulfstream over at Tampa or whatnot. It's going to be interesting to see what he does on the comeback here. Come back to the United States. Again, he's been riding regularly and doing well over in Dubai, but interesting to see what he does coming back stateside. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, more on Racing Across America, including our interview with Michael Stidham. Stay tuned.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now.
The Clubhouse Racebook is the Capital Region's new home for racing and sports. 25,000 square feet of Vegas-style action with live wagering on the best horse racing from around the world. 260 flat-screen televisions and state-of-the-art wagering terminals. So don't miss out. The fun is only minutes away at 711 Central Avenue, Albany, just off Exit 5 of I-90. And don't forget, if you can't make it to the Clubhouse, you can always wager online 24/7 at capitalotb.com.
Sometimes it pays to go with the flow, to check your worries at the door, to reconnect with your crew, to follow the thrills and the flavor, to roll with it and see where it takes you, to enjoy every minute to its fullest, and to dance like there's no tomorrow. You can do that here at Rivers Casino and Resort Schenectady, where the good times flow.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. Seth Merrow in the studio. Yesterday, we taped an interview with Michael Stidham. Again, opening weekend at Fairgrounds, so I thought we'd reach out to a Fairgrounds-based trainer, get some thoughts on racing and training there, and we hit on that and much, much more. Fun interview. Just wanted to alert you, the first 2 or 3 minutes, there's a little bit of background noise, but you'll hear the interview, but just be aware that after a couple of minutes, that'll go away. So let's send it now to, again, fun interview with trainer Michael Stidham. At the Fairgrounds, and I thought we would reach out to a trainer who's a regular down there and give some thoughts on Fairgrounds in general and more. And Michael Stidham is a Fairgrounds-based guy during
further back to American Biscuit. Mount Pilata starts to run on nicely. Then comes Courageous Cat. Further back behind those is Golden Prospect. Coming down to the last 300, DJ Junior is the leader. Courageous Cat runs on towards the inside, and then came Mount Pilatus. It's DJ Junior, 150 to go. Keeps on rolling by 3 lengths and goes further clear. And DJ Junior runs away to beat home Courageous Cat. DJ Junior by 2.5. Good run, Courageous Cat second.
And basically have made New Orleans my home base for that reason. And always glad to get back down there and get into my home and enjoy the racing, winter racing down there.
I did not realize you were kind of a resident, because I was going to ask you if New Orleans itself draws you down there. I made one visit. This is going back a few years. I have a sister who lives in Arkansas, so I did kind of a trip and hit visited her, hit Hot Springs, hit Oaklawn, went down and spent a little time down in Tampa. So I had a couple of days at the fairgrounds, and that gave me a chance to explore New Orleans a little bit. I'm guessing if you're a resident, you're a fan of the city as well. Let's talk a little bit about the New Orleans experience.
Well, look, I mean, there's no better city. I would say anywhere.
So it's another big result. I think the Exotics are going to pay a rocket this afternoon or this late evening. Really a good win from DJ Jr. I know he's had a number of problems leading into the race, and that's probably why he's been off for so long. I'll chat to Enrico Verdeniz in just a moment about that. He's a 5-year-old. He's a son of Diesel Jet. He's now a 2-time winner from 6 starts. Well done to Mr. and Mrs. E.R. Grace, to Mr. D.D. Savadia, and a top ride from Keretile Kacheri. Well done, Keretile. I thought a good ride from you. Obviously a horse that I'll chat to Mr. Verdeniz about now. Had his problems along the way, but he's certainly got ability.
Yeah, no, most definitely. Obviously, from how he prevailed today, and just coming from a long layoff, and I'm not sure if he was overdone or underdone, but with what they've done with him is exceptionally phenomenal, and I'm truly grateful to have gotten this opportunity to ride him.
Let me chat to you about the race, because I didn't spot you early, which is probably very foolish of me, because you can't miss him with the big white blaze. But there were a number of fancied horses in and around you. I mean, just take us through it. Where did you kind of know that you had the race so well?
You know, obviously coming out the gates, I thought maybe before the favorite it would be something very good for me. Obviously getting to track the Rajos, and I ended up putting up Mr. Peter's horse, and I knew that he has a bit of pace, so I just followed it into the straight, just tried waiting for as long as possible. I waited for him to actually just balance up today and just let him take me there, and I just took it from there on and just got it him on.
Look, he's going to go on, no doubt. Is there anything else that you're riding for the rest of the evening? We've got 3 more races left. What else have you got?
I've got Savanistam in the Pinnacle Stakes. He seems to be in a good space, and we're just taking our chances to see how he goes.
He loves the standside track at Turpentine. I think that's a big plus. I know it's a competitive race. There's some hard hitters, but I mean, you could sneak into the quartets.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And obviously coming in with a lightweight, I think he obviously have a lively chance, and let's see how he goes.
Well done, Keretile.
Thanks a lot. And obviously a big thank you to the owners, to all the connections. A big thank you to Mr. Verdeniz for giving me this opportunity. This is my first for him. I've had a couple of places, but this is my first for him. And yeah, I'm truly grateful that I could have got to ride my 60th winner today here, obviously at the Big T.
So that's the big 60. Yeah. Tell us in terms of racing viewers, I mean, what does that mean in the academy?
Obviously, you've ridden out your claim, and now we ride out our claim at 50. And yeah, but it's just obviously being one more step ahead of your other mates and just getting to prove yourself, I guess, and all the rides which you get, and trying to do your best and obviously get more opportunities from that.
That's a big achievement. First winner for Enrico Verdeniz and the 60th for Keretile Kacheri, so no more claimer. Well done, keep it going, and now the big league starts, but you'll handle that well.
With that turf course as well. As I say, we all love the turf races, nice big fields. I'm curious where the rest of the year, as the year goes around, do you consider your base kind of moving? Or I know you have horses at Fair Hill, and I pulled up Equibase and I took a look. Just in the last month, you've had horses race at Woodbine, Churchill, Aqueduct, Delaware, Keeneland, and Laurel. And it seems like a lot of trainers at Fair Hill can make that a base to move out from. Do you consider Fair Hill a base for much of the rest of the year?
Yeah, that's our summer base at Fair Hill, and we also have horses stabled at Delaware Park. And from those 2 tracks, we race all up and down the East Coast, all the way up to, up to Canada, and down to, sometimes all the way down to Florida. So, it's a very central spot to race at, 7 or 8 different racetracks all summer long. So we do well, having horses there.
Yeah, I hear that from a lot of people who are based on there. And as I say, you see trainers that do have horses there will branch out, and there are many opportunities that are, a van ride away. Let's talk about Saturday afternoon. You got a couple of horses in on this opening weekend. There's a maiden special weight race number 6 on the turf at Fairgrounds. It's about 5.5 furlongs. You have one that's a couple deep on the AE list, so might need some help to get in. But if not today, maybe we can look down the future for Notorious. Second time started by Practical Joke, debuted at the aforementioned Delaware Park. And it seemed like maybe that was a troubled trip there. Practical Joke, certainly a sire of win early types. What are you looking for either Saturday or, again, if he doesn't get in, what are you looking for in the future for Notorious?
Well, he is one that did have a troubled trip first time out. We feel like maybe the grass is going to help him some. So we're kind of still in search of really what he wants to do, what his best surface and distance is going to be. So we're trying the grass, and we're going to, he's a work in progress.
And I see this was a Keeneland sale purchase. And before we went on the air, you said you're in Kentucky right now. You said you've been down at the fairgrounds, but you're up in Kentucky and you had some horses at Turfway, and you're headed to the sales now as we talk. Do you participate a lot in the sales with your owners, taking a look and giving recommendations?
We do. We're always at the Keeneland yearling sales. That's, in my opinion, one of the best places you can buy a horse, as a young horse yearling. There's over 4,000 horses in that sale. It's a great sale to go to. You get, some of the best pedigrees you can find in the business. So we're always at the yearling sale. We travel around to the 2-year-olds in training sales in Ocala and Maryland. And, right now this sale that we're at is, horses of racing age. So we've actually got clients that are selling a few, and we're trying to buy a few at this sale.
Nice.
And then we have horses stabled at Turfway. So Hillary and I just went to Turfway this morning to watch our horses train while we're here. We're constantly moving around and, doing our business.
Well, as I said, just looking at the last month, that list I had, there were 6 or 7 various tracks you were at. But let me ask you, you said you had a string at Turfway. I'm curious because I was just talking to some people about this in the last couple of days. It seems like the winter program at Turfway has kind of, just really the past couple of years, maybe 3 years, but certainly in the past couple of years, that winter at Turfway has really blossomed.
It really has. They put the casino in there and with the slots, and things have really gone the right way. Money wise, the purses are way up there. The synthetic track in the winter is, the surface that you need, because obviously it's all weather and you can handle, the freezing temperatures there. It's a good, safe track to train on. And, it's very competitive to get stalls.
Yeah, it seems like it's gone. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, no, I was going to say that we are very familiar with the synthetic track, having trained at Arlington for over 25 years before Arlington closed. So we don't mind training on the synthetic track.
Well, now that you brought that up, I'll ask you that too, because I never got to Arlington, which I totally regret. But everything I heard, just how it seems like a real shame that they closed Arlington. Everything I heard was that was a gorgeous track.
It, without a doubt, we actually were lucky enough to train some of Mr. Duchossois' horses. So we were there, and, we just absolutely, Hillary and I love being in Arlington every summer. Great racetrack to train on, and, just being in that, those Chicago suburb area, living there was great. And, it really is a shame that, that it was shut down. I mean, that track was, in my opinion, the facility was probably one of the best in the country.
That's what everybody who has been there says. It's just so unfortunate that things turned out that way. Let me move on and get your horse in the 8th on Saturday, Tufani, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Lightly raced 3-year-old filly on the turf, has had 5 turf starts so far, including a nice little second in the state, 2 back, ran 6th in the Virginia Oaks last time at Colonial. But what are you expecting Saturday afternoon from Tufani?
Well, she's had a little bit of a freshening since the summer, Colonial. And, we're expecting a big effort from her. She's doing well. and I think she's in a spot where she's going to be very competitive.
And I have to admit, I'm not familiar with the jockey. I looked up Ben Curtis, limited starts in a career that shows some racing in 2012 and 2019. Can you tell me anything about the jock, Ben Curtis?
Well, actually, I don't know that much about him other than, his stats from England, where he's been one of the top riders over in England, moving around. And if you look up his stats, last year he had over 100 winners. So, I mean, he's done very well over there. We're planning on putting him on, some of our better turf horses, and we're going to find out, just like everybody else, how well he rides over here in the States.
I'm glad I asked, because I was looking at Equibase, which is only showing American stats, and so it wasn't translating the guy. That very good. So he'll be kind of fun to watch at the meet then a little bit. I want to touch on also you have a runner in a stake at Woodbine on Saturday afternoon, the Kennedy Road. You have Dream Shake going. Ran fifth in the Arctic last time, but just missed there. But I'm going to pull up a replay. We have the Connaught Cup going back to July. Nice win going 7. That was on the turf. This one's going to be on the synthetic. But 4 starts back, one on the synthetic up at Woodbine too. But what are you expecting from Dream Shake up at Woodbine on Saturday afternoon?
Well, we were very unlucky to not get up in his last race. He was flying down the middle of the racetrack. He wound up 5th, beaten about the chart shows a neck, and I mean there were like 5 noses right on the wire. So he was coming probably fastest of all and just didn't quite get there in time. He drew the extreme outside that day, so we didn't have a very advantageous post. And this time we drew inside. So I'm expecting him to really run well up there. He every time we've sent him up to Woodbine, he's run 2 wins and then that very close 5th in his last start. So we're expecting a big effort.
And he's, I'm looking at the PPs here. He's been based down at Fair Hill.
That's correct. Yep.
And what kind of a ship is that? You just hop him on a van, and what's that like? I'm trying to think from here. Probably.
It's about 10 hours.
Okay. I wanted to go a little in review and let you talk a little bit about one of your big horses from the last couple of years, going back a couple of weeks. We're going to watch the stretch run to the Breeders' Cup Classic. Of course, White Obario wins. Derma Sotogake up for second. But your Proxy runs third in here, be the number 13. Talk a little bit about, the last race of the career, as I understand it. Nice third in the Breeders' Cup. But this was a nice horse for you in Godolphin. Well over $2 million in earnings. Had the Grade 1 Clark on the resume earlier in the career. We saw him up here just missing the Jockey Club Gold Cup just before this Breeders' Cup we're looking at. We saw him just now coming under the wire with a nice late run to go third. Talk a little bit about the Breeders' Cup Classic performance and the third place finish there. And did the 13 post position or the outside post position, was that in effect, do you think?
Well, I'll tell you, we were concerned about the outside post, but actually, Joel Rosario did a great job getting him over going into that first turn, was able to save some ground. I don't think the post really hurt us that much. But Proxy, although, he was a gem of consistency throughout his career, very rarely off the board. But he was always a quirky runner where he would, in a lot of his races, be in good position down the backside, and going around the turn, he would tend to kind of drop back or drop out of the race a little bit and put himself in a tough position to try to get up. But from the quarter pole to the wire, every race, he was always flying, down the lane. And in some of those races, he would get up, and in others, he would fall just a little bit short. But, the Breeders' Cup was another one of his great efforts where if you watch the race closely, very few horses were closing that day. and he was making up the most ground of any horse in the Classic. So we were delighted. Hiller and I just went out yesterday. We're here in Kentucky, so we went out and visited him
Nice.
at Godolphin, and he's already being shown as a stallion, and he looks fantastic, and we're very proud to have been involved with Proxy.
Yeah, we watched the stretch run a couple of times. And just about what you said about the, inside in between the 8th and the quarter, he turned the jets on and came late. It was a nice late run. Yeah. And as I say, we're up here in the Saratoga area. Talk a little bit about the Jockey Club Gold Cup. Oof, that had to be frustrating. Just missed in that one behind Bright Future.
That was one race where I honestly, from about the 16th pole to the wire, I called him a winner. I just didn't see how he was going to lose because he was really bearing down on the leader, and it looked like we were going to get there, and we were no short. But another big effort from Proxy, and that was who he was. He earned almost $2.8 million, and he was just a dream horse to get to train.
And just before I let you go, I want to talk a little bit about another really nice horse of yours that ran well up at Saratoga going back a couple of years. Mystic Guide, 2020 won the Jim Dandy, 2021 won the Dubai World Cup. I'm correct, right? Standing stud this year for the first time. So what, we'll be out in 2025 before we start to see his offspring at the sales?
No, he actually he stood last year, and so he'll have babies on the ground coming up this year.
Nice. You're looking forward to maybe getting some in the barn?
Oh, absolutely. We can't wait. And when we were out there visiting Proxy yesterday, we also saw Mystic Guide, and he looks fantastic. He's doing well. He bred over 140 mares last year, and he's got another full book ready for this year. So we're excited about both of them.
Broke his maiden at Fairgrounds, so that's interesting. And I just wanted to hit on one last thing, then I'll let you go, because I last night as I was doing research, I saw you a little video interview you did as Proxy was getting ready for the Breeders' Cup. They were talking to you out at Santa Anita, and you were reminiscing starting your career out in Southern California. Just talk a little bit about that, because it was fun to listen to. You kind of reminisced that, and it sounded like you felt, and as you talked, I remember I was in the game, playing back then, and I remembered that, almost a golden age of trainers and jockeys out there in Southern California. Talk about starting the career out there.
Yeah, there's no question about it. When people ask me, where I came up from and, how I learned the business, there's no question other than, being around my father, who was a jockey, and he also trained. Aside from that, just coming up in Southern California all through the 80s, there was no better place in the world to be during the 80s than Southern California. You had, Charlie Whittingham, Laz Barrera, Gary Jones, just the absolute top trainers. Then you had jockeys, Bill Shoemaker, Lafitte Pinkai, Eddie Delahousie, and some of the greatest horses that ever raced were running at that time. So, I got to watch and observe and learn from the best in the business. And, I think that was a magical time, in Southern California, in those days. So I was very lucky to come up, during that era.
And then what made you transition east of the Mississippi?
Well, I had a client, we had done, well for, Mr. Goodman, Harold Goodman at the time. And it's a little bit of a long story, but I went and bought a horse for him called Manzotti that we bought over in France. We imported him back to the States. He became a stallion, and I got to train, his first crop. And I trained for Mr. Goodman, and he asked me to leave California, come back when Texas got racing. And that's how I wound up, getting involved in the Midwest racing starting in the early 90s. But it was, it was my transition from West Coast to Midwest. And actually, it was a good move for me because, that kind of projected me into getting to train for Stoner Side. And then that led to Godolphin. And, a lot of my really good success has come from Godolphin and being in the Midwest.
Oh, that's interesting. So pit stop in Texas on the way east. And you mentioned your father, and I read last night he was a jockey before he became a trainer. And I think what I read said he rode on the East Coast. Where did he ride?
Well, he started in New Jersey and West Virginia, and New York and Delaware, and all the Mid-Atlantic type tracks and East Coast tracks. So that was I was actually born in New Jersey because that's where my dad was riding at the time. So I was born in New Jersey, but then raised in Miami because after my dad quit riding, he moved the family down to Miami, and that's where I went to high school and a little bit of college down there.
Well, now I keep wanting to wind up the conversation, but you keep bringing up another track I have never been to, but heard great things. And if you were a kid and working in the horse racing industry, do you have any memories of Hialeah?
Oh my God! I actually grew up in Miami Springs, which was directly across the canal from Hialeah and about 3 miles to Hialeah Racetrack. So, as a teenager and even younger than that, I would go to Hialeah Racetrack, and that's where I started. My first hot walking job was at Hialeah, and my dad trained there, and I got to, I was a groom and an assistant. My very first job in the 70s in Miami and at Hialeah Racetrack. One of the greatest racetracks ever.
That's what everybody, and the pictures and old film. I'm envious I never made this stop. Mike, really appreciated the conversation and the time. As I say, I wanted to get somebody in who's kind of fairgrounds based to help us kind of kick off the fairgrounds season. But we really appreciate you taking the time. And again, I know you're on the way to the sales, so good luck there and good luck in the fairgrounds season. And we'll talk again in the future.
Absolutely. And again, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Happy to do it. Michael Stidham, again, couple horses in this opening weekend at the fairgrounds, and you'll see him throughout the meet as well. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, more Racing Across America.
No matter where in the world you are, the excitement of wagering on horse racing is just a click away. You'll get live streaming, past performances, race replays, our virtual tote board, analysis and selections from professional handicappers, a simple, safe, and secure wagering platform, and best of all, you get track prices. CapitalOTBBet.com. Bet any place, anytime at CapitalOTBBet.com. And be sure to download our new mobile app from the iTunes Store or Google Play.
Sometimes it pays to go with the flow, to check your worries at the door, to reconnect with your crew, to follow the thrills and the flavor, to roll with it and see where it takes you, to enjoy every minute to its fullest, and to dance like there's no tomorrow. You can do that here at Rivers Casino and Resort Schenectady, where the good times flow.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. Yeah, it was a fun interview with Mike Stidham. Wide-ranging. We talked about a number of different topics, but of course he's based down at, as he says, he has a house a couple of blocks away from the track, and based down there at this time of year. So it's fun to talk to Mike Stidham. I pulled up the the leaderboard were, just to give you an idea from last year, so moving into this year, leaderboard from the fairgrounds at the end of the last season. Interesting. On the leading trainer side, Ron Fichot was the leading trainer last year. He's now a jockey's agent. And I think he had kind of announced that at the end of that fairgrounds meet that he was going to step away from training, but he's now a jockey's agent. So that see the guy at the top usually moving on. But he was the winner last year, tying for second, Brad Cox and Brett Calhoun, Shane Wilson third, fourth, Tommy Amos fifth in there. Steve Asmussen was eighth. Chris Hartman 10th. Mike Stidham was down 13 overall, but a nice meet. As more limited starters than the guys up at the top, but he was hitting at a pretty good percentage. Mike Stidham last year 22% at the meet and in the money. He had I'm not showing the in the money percentage, but that has to be because he had 54 starters, 12 wins, 7 seconds, 13 thirds. So he's 32 in the money at 54. So Stidham, a nice meet last year, and we'll see what he does this year. And on the jockey side of things, New York State native Raylu Gutierrez topped the standings last year pretty easily, 64-53. James Graham second, Corey Lannery third, Loveberry fourth, Deshaun Parker fifth last year down there at the fairgrounds. So that just gives you a little idea of last year, and maybe you tuck that in your back pocket and see how those guys get off to a start this year. All right, I'm going to wrap it up for Racing Across America. Again, I'm kind of keeping my eyes up there. I'm expecting the pregame show to kick off for NYRA because, again, they're 11:50, so usually their pregame is about an hour, and then they have a little time before the first race. So I'm guessing sooner rather than later they will launch. Before I go, do want to remind you, $108,000 Pick 6 carryover at Aqueduct. So if you're a Pick 6 player, keep your eyes open for that. Day 2 of the fairgrounds. We're in the midst of the Del Mar meet, so plenty of great action to have some fun with. Again, a handicapper's report this morning. I handicapped both Aqueduct and Churchill, and that Aqueduct card, nice stakes action on the card at Aqueduct today, so it should be fun. Don't forget, it's the Fan Appreciation Day. Sportsman's Bowl, easy bet in Schenectady. There'll be some food, some free stuff, contest, and a lot of fun down there, and our chance to say thank you to you. Fan Appreciation Day, Sportsman's Bowl, Crane Street in Schenectady. That's this afternoon. All right, and it looks like they are kicking off in New York, so we'll get you down there so you can see the scratches and changes. Here are the pregame handicapping from Aqueduct. It's a Saturday morning. Seth Merrow, Racing Across America. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got a little good information and entertainment, and you're all set now to kick it off for the afternoon of good racing action. I appreciate your tuning in. We'll see you a little bit later on. Stay tuned. Good luck. And morning programming, as far as the morning programming, back in for a Sunday Racing Across America. See you then.
TBTB, a service of Capital Off-Track Betting.